Good evening and welcome to our very special live unboxing of Dark Deeds, the game of malicious minions. Did you like my hand modelling, Mark?
Excellent hand modelling. What could the box possibly contain?
Now, this is the very first time that we've done a live unboxing with Mapcam, with all four of us on StreamYard. So please do bear with us. We may have some technical little kinks that we need to iron out.
It'll be perfect. It'll be fine. Besides, I have a celebratory drink because this is obviously our first unboxing. That being the case, if anything goes wrong, I won't care.
No.
Cheers.
There you go.
Mark's got his Dark Deeds hoodie on. He looks very handsome.
I have my Dark Deeds seal on my hat right there.
We should get these made, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we really should.
We should bring these things out of retirement.
Dark Deeds hoodies.
So,
yeah, I'll be up for one of those.
Shall I get on with it?
Yeah, get that box on. Do you want to wear it? It's a classic unboxing. Obviously, we don't have the cellophane in place, sadly, but you could flip it over and show what's on the other side first.
Yeah.
Ooh. So what does it say, Lindsay? Not that we put this together or anything, but what does it say?
Dark Deeds, the game of malicious minions, with our beautiful Rookery publication stamp in the corner by Andy Chambers and Mark Gibbons. It's got your usual blurb that you'd expect on the back of the box, except this is even better because it's our blurb.
There you go.
I will say one thing.
A darkly humorous card game of skullduggery and suspicion for 2 to 5 players.
I'd like to jump in right there because there is one thing that I will say about the back, and it's something that we tweaked with a couple of times, or at least I did, and that's the word skullduggery. Just take a moment to have a look at it, because the word skullduggery in English is spelt with one L. But this is a dark deed. In this case, it's skullduggery. Just take a look at that. It's a thing of beauty. It is skullduggery.
Is this your way of saying I misspelt it?
No, it's absolutely not. It is my way of saying that we misspelt it on purpose. In fact, there was an entire debate about this between Graham and I in the background, where Graham was like, "Ew," I was like, "Skullduggery."
By the way, Andy shouted skullduggery so loud just there that I heard it through the soundproof garage and the door into my streaming room. Just FYI, everyone. So listen out, Dundee and Glasgow, for Andy. So that did get past the proofreader, Mark.
No,
I did challenge that, and I was told that is skullduggery.
When I was putting all this together, when I was doing all the layout, and I was learning InDesign, which is the industry standard software for making books. I was learning, with stuff we were doing with other stuff we were doing with the Rookery for the Coil Crown, but then also obviously the new rulebook for Dark Deeds, and I didn't realize it had as comprehensive a spell checker built into it as it did. So I was running stuff through, and some words were getting through, and I think, well, hang on, we're questioning the spelling on this, but according to the InDesign's spell check, this is all right. So is this like an old English word that it's antiquated but still technically legal?
Yeah, Mark, I'm glad you asked, because over the next 5 or 6 days, I'm going to be doing a series of TikToks to add to my regular TikToks of etymology of Scots, English, Norwegian, and other North European words. Dastardly is on the list, which comes from a dastard, a coward. Skullduggery is on the list. So if there's anything else you'd like to hear the etymology of, let me know. Minion could be one. If I had to guess, I would say skullduggery probably is an old English word, something to do. So there's probably links across to Old Norse, etc. Andy Leask, of course, is like gripping his face as an English teacher, being like, no, it comes from the Australian word for pigeon.
No, I do just happen to know this one, but by coincidence. But I won't spoil your TikTok. I'll let you go on that journey yourself. So.
Oh, I assumed it to do with digging up skulls.
I feel like
do you want to know what it is?
With bowls, skullduggery, something to do with betraying each other over the peace table.
It actually it comes from Scots. It's skullduggery is the original word, and it means fornication or adultery.
Oh,
I still
So
think
it's a
it's got something to do with
sexy game.
bowls.
Yeah.
awesome. So, what else does it say in the back of the box?
Anyway, crashing on.
Anyway, in Dark
Quite.
Deeds, players are cast as malicious minions in service to a powerful, mysterious, and clearly villainous patron. In the service of this dark power, minions must perform acts of thievery, violence, and betrayal, all whilst avoiding suspicious authorities, interfering do-gooders, and the machinations of their rivals. Rich rewards await the most successful minion, alongside horrific punishments for those who fail. Are you the kind of malevolent minion the patron needs? Team players need not apply.
We're all in it for ourselves.
That's about it.
And then
Ready
it's
to
got the
flip over?
contents.
Oh, yeah. What
the
are we
right-hand
about
side.
to find?
A street board, tavern decks, 40 plot cards, 18 dark deed cards, 42 card street deck, 3 times 15 cards, citizen loot decks, 5 reference cards, 1 most suspicious minion coin with terrible Latin provided by me, 60 suspicion marks, 2 6-sided dice, and a rulebook.
And I just want to bring up one there from Kidane. Has this turned into an episode of Call My Bluff? I mean, this is the Rookery. It kind of always an episode of Call My Bluff in the background. Because it does, after all, even have a
Rookery
Scots link.
publications, Modiphius,
Oops.
our address if you want to come and stalk us, Choking Hazard in a beautiful black and red Rookery colours.
Oh yes,
You're-
yes. I took all the standard warning signs you have to put on these things and said, can we do them in our colours at least?
Yeah, indeed. On that, we had to have a discussion with Modiphius because obviously we were messing around with their logos as well. And we had a discussion with them saying, do you mind if we just make it a bit us? And they were like, yeah, sure. Away you go. But, you know, we did ask first. We're not that bad.
So shall I turn it over?
Yeah, go. Go on, let's get in here. Get in there.
Okay,
Break the seal.
first
Break the
thing
seal.
that hits you is the delicious new game smell.
New game spell. Before you discard that box top, there's something on the inside. There we go. The minion's prayer. Ah.
Would you like me to read it, Mark?
Please do.
The minion's prayer. Now I creep along the street. I pray the watch will be asleep. But should I fail to rob this day, by patron's will, I'll sneak away.
That was put together by Mark because Mark rocks. But that was put in place because we had big long chats with Modiphius about what we could do with the inside and could we do anything. And after a long discussion, they were like, "Yep, you can print on the inside of the box too." So we were like, "Great, what will we do?" And the amount of discussion we had in the background regarding seals, images, different things that could go in. And in the end, Mark went, "I know!" And he beavered away and he came back and went, "How about this?" And I was like, "Oh, hell yes. That's just
And Mark,
beautiful."
Is this your first published piece of poetry?
It is, yes.
Congratulations.
I'm not planning, extensive works. But,
I expect this to be the first piece in a great compilation, an anthology of poetry awesome from Mr. Mark Gibbons.
all about
Of course.
sneaking.
Yeah. And obviously illustrated throughout.
There you go.
So here we come to the pop-outs. My mum and dad wanted to have a look at this, and I was like, no, you can't. You might pop something out by mistake. Can I pop?
Yeah, go for it. So these are the suspicion tokens to show just how suspicious you are as a minion as you do your various nefarious deeds throughout the course of your play. As you do more, let's say, naughty things, you pick up more and more suspicion, making it more likely that the watch will come chasing after you. They come in a mixture of 1s and 3s, and the most suspicious minion picks up the nice token that Lindsay has right by her hand. That's it right there, the big huge one. The most suspicious minion
Which
token.
Maxime Suspectissimus.
Yes, we're not entirely convinced that that's all thing. You went digging for genuine Latin, but we didn't. As I recall, we couldn't find anything that had the right sort of didn't sing, for sticking on a coin.
So This is genuine Latin. It maybe just was never meant to go together exactly quite like this.
Lindsay studied Latin for years, for those of you who are Latin fans out there, and she particularly loves Ecce Romani. And that is what years of Latin gives you. A most suspicious minion token.
And on the back, mutatis mutandis.
Which is a personal slogan of Andy Chambers, which means what? Adapt to survive, I think. Or words to that effect.
I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah, personal motto. So one of the things we were keen to do with the, because with the first edition of the game, we had wooden tokens, which were very nice, but stupidly expensive. And as a consequence, we didn't put enough in the box. And we found players getting in touch saying, like, I've run out of suspicion marks. What do I do? So we encouraged them to use, old coins, discarded peanuts, anything that they felt could count. You just agree that this is worth 1 suspicion and this is worth 3, and away you go. But we didn't want to have that discussion again, so we made sure we made an excessive amount of suspicion marks for this game. But then you do generate more suspicion marks in the new edition, so
Oh, I just realised. So on Monday, someone came to my door and needed cash on delivery. And I was like...
Is this what you get in the book?
That's not... Is that
Yes!
And I was like, my mum gave me £60 for my birthday. And I put it somewhere really clever because I thought it would be hilarious. And now I don't know where I put it.
That's beautiful. Just as one other last point about the suspicion marks, that's another one of those things you might think in the background doesn't take an awful lot of thought, but Mark and I discussed exactly how many we could squeeze on at what size on the cut board for, I think it bounced back for almost a week. And there was a surprising amount of maths involved with it as well, because we were considering the maximum amount of players, the maximum amount of suspicion that you might be able to get during the course of not just a normal game, but an abnormal game. And could we actually fund that game with the number of tokens that we got out? So for all this made it look like a nice simple little sheet full of 3s and 1s, a surprising amount of thought, and believe it or not, Excel spreadsheeting on my side as well, just to double check all my mental maths. It is rather amusing.
There you go.
So yeah, disclaimer.
You don't get 60 quid in your normal, in your standard copy of the game. That's a deluxe edition exclusive.
Nor do you get a present from my mum or my washing delivered to your door.
Right.
So where does it begin? Begins with our seal. Look at that.
Our seal.
And a lovely letter from the patron to all new minions who are about to take on their new dastardly occupation.
Written by the Grand Master, who is, I guess,
point taken.
The equivalent of, I guess, the patron's mouth of Sauron kind of thing. Because we don't know that the patron is actually capable of writing. We don't know that they have hands or fingers. It might be weird tentacles or the power of his mind. It might not be a physical being. It might be a giant flaming floating eye. Something crazy like that. So yes, but a representative of the patron has gathered minions together, and this is kind of like debriefing, denubification on day 1 as your new job as a minion in the service of the patron.
I'm not going to read this out. I'm going to leave that for people when they get the book themselves.
Obviously,
because it feels like it's personal.
Well, I did the signature there was then with I drizzled paint out of a bottle in the vague shape of letters, and then that's what the signature ended up being.
I can see my own name in it. Lind.
Yeah, probably.
And then, as always, we've got the components, which I think I'll just flick through. Mark, I didn't realize how these layouts were actually done for rule books, and so I was quite surprised when you were putting them together, how they're done.
How do you mean? What surprised you?
I really like that you took photos of them and then put them in.
I mean, it depends on the particular components. Because what often happens is when you're putting together a rule book, you don't have the pieces. You're making the rule book as the time the pieces are being made, so it ends up being a lot of digital fakery. You know, it's a lot of mock-up stuff, which I think is probably what I did for this one. I don't recall having any of the components printed in advance. Things like there, the suspicion marks. Those are the digital files with a bit of a drop shadow on them to make them look a bit real. Yeah, but I mean, the whole rulebook got a complete page one rewrite. It's twice the size. I mean, physically twice the size, but also double the number of pages that was in the first edition rulebook, because there was a lot of a sort of vagary, I think, in the first edition. I think it's safe to say a lot of instances where players were encouraged to sort of house rule stuff or improvise answers to questions they might have, and we thought we wanted to nip that in the bud this time and make sure that what we did with the rule book was answer all the weird questions that people ask. Stuff like, can I claim a dark deed retroactively? No, you bloody can't, you dirty cheat. Can I wear multiple items of the same piece of clothing? Yes, you can have two sets of pretty petticoats and a nun's habit if you want. It's all fine. And you can ride a horse while swinging a blessed bludgeon in each hand. It's all stackable. So those are the questions we were asked most often.
The page that Lindsay's on right now also shows another thing that was significantly updated in how the rulebook was put together this time, where you'll notice that there is text that's inside banners, and there's also text which is outside the banners. Very simply, the text inside banners is, the lovely, delicious, characterful text that you get from the various minions describing what they're doing, where the text outside is just the nice, clean rules. So it's super easy to find the rule that you're looking for without getting all of that lovely text mixed in. So when you're playing the game, it's super easy to reference, but when you're reading the game, it's also super fun to read because it's got all of this nice call-out text filled with lovely little minions. You see all the minions up in the top corners there chatting away with their various hoods in place.
Yes, we defluffed the rule text just for clarity's sake, which is something that when Andy read the rule book, he said, yeah, we should really kind of, create some sort of clear water between what's rule that you need to find and learn versus what's characterful and fluffy, which is just nice there to get you in the mood for playing the game.
Yeah, it's and it makes it super fun to read. And importantly, also super easy to reference. It's also worth noting that for all the rulebook is bigger, a good chunk of the rulebook is just reference explaining what cards are, or just explaining how the cards are used, particularly at the end, where I think like the last 4 or 5 pages are just extra reference material for how the cards work.
Yeah, it's all about the decks. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. The decks of Dark Deeds and explaining what each one of them is, rather than necessarily more rules you need to read. The rules, it's a surprisingly rules-like game. There's not a great deal to learn, but the application of those rules and the various cards and how they interact is where it all begins to build up.
And also on the back 2 pages, there's the credits, both for the original Dark Deeds, Second Stab for Tabletopia by Mark, and the first edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then
And then a little bit about inside the Rookery.
Indeed. So
there was a blank page at the back. I had to stick something in there,
Yeah. So let's have a look at the streets. Look at the seal at the back. Oh.
The street.
And you can clearly see, although it's upside down at the moment, flip it round. You can clearly see where the tavern deck goes. That's the cards that you gain access to on your turn for extra dark deeds or extra scurrilous plans that you might be up to when you visit the tavern. And down at the bottom, the loot decks, of which there's 3. So when you go around and nab stuff off the various unsuspecting and relatively hapless citizens of Amthran, the city where it's set, you can get access to the loot that they may be carrying. And the decks are either face down, which is the actual deck itself, and a couple of cards face up. So you can either choose from the ones that are face up, or you could just randomly choose one that's face down if you don't like the ones that are face up, which might get you something better, or it might not.
And the street deck, where the guards, the citizens, and the nemeses.
Yes, they all march down the course of the game. They all move left to right down the street, and you're moving up the street against the tide, doing your dirtiness.
You'll see the nice little dagger symbol there pointing which direction they're all moving down the street.
Yeah.
You can
That's
see...
one of my favorite things.
Oh, sorry, on your go, Mark.
I was just gonna say, I absolutely love that mechanic of the street moving. Like it's simple but elegant, and it really, I love it.
Yeah, it's dynamic as well. So you tend to find, particularly if you're playing, say, a 4-player game, might have played this game quite a bit. When you're playing a 4-player game, the street moves between your turns very quickly because obviously every player is interacting with that street and the cards are changing as you go. Where when you're playing, say, a 2 or 3-player game, you get more opportunities to get in, but everyone's got the same number of opportunities. So in the end, the game all balances out beautifully. But nevertheless, when you're playing a 4-player game, often your marvelous plans that you've been putting together, because you might have a dark deed to, for example, take out one of the characters, one of the nasty nemeses that makes its way down the street, and then someone else comes along and stabs him first, and you're like, oi! Ah, no! Or alternatively, whisks them off to some tower in the middle of nowhere, and you're just left going, my plans, my
glorious plans.
Yeah, quite.
All in ruins.
So yeah, super fun, super simple. But you find all of the dark deeds, because this is a potential issue, don't just say take out a single individual. They generally have 2 or 3 different individuals who may be caught up with one individual plot. And it's your job to try and grab just one of them before the game ends.
Yes, because you don't want to be left. You don't want to be stuck with nemeses or incompleted dark deeds at the end of the game, because those are negative modifiers on your favor total, which is how you determine who wins. Well, who lives, who earns the patron's favor and is only mildly tortured subsequently.
Yeah, totally. Can we see the inside of the box? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Such a simple thing, but it makes a big difference. So you can see where you can store your cards without thinking. Again, a surprising amount of thought went into exactly what we were going to put in there.
And the sides of the box.
The sides too. Can you flip it on its side, Lindsay?
Hey. Yep. So yeah, it's just little touches like that because they've got to be covered with paper. You can put something on them, and again with the inlay as well. It was like, traditionally perhaps it would just be this blank card or a plastic, a vac form thing. And we like the idea of card, and if we're going to do card, well, we can print on that, can't we? So let's print on it.
Absolutely.
I really sorry, I was just going to say, I really like in the street and tavern, like backs of the cards and the layout, they're like a traditional playing card with the one side and then the mirror on the bottom. Yeah. I do love that feel that it gives.
That's because Mark rocks. I'm also going to say one thing I particularly like, the insert. We had a lot of discussion about the insert. We had various versions sent to us by the factory. And we eventually went with card for a variety of, we are conscientious and don't want to use plastic if we can avoid it reasons. And the card inserts that we got sent to begin with, of which there was multiple variations. Some were too large, some were too big, some involved the parts moving around too much, which wouldn't be good. And some of them also ended up having hard raw edges facing up, so we had to say, no, that needs to be folded over, that has to be done. You'll be surprised at just how much conversation you can have with a factory concerning what is, relatively speaking, a pretty simple insert. But when we were also told that we could print on it, then it was happy days, because it just makes all the difference to just making it feel like it's a thing of beauty that's a joy forever, much like these dice.
The dice have got a really nice
I was so pleased with the dice. Yeah, I mean, we talked about in the first version of the game we had on the, I think it was a single D12, and it was the 12 we had the seal symbol printed. I'm never too crazy about those. They always feel a bit gimmicky, and because the seal is quite a detailed shape, the lines got really, really skinny on it, and it just didn't sit well with the numbers on the dice. So when we got the option to talk about, I just said, can we just take the font from the game and the same color ink as printed on the cards, and have that be the dice? And eventually, again, lots of back and forth on that. They said, yeah, we can do that. And when they sent those samples over, the first set they sent over, they added this sort of distressing, which was just way too much. I said, no, let's just strip it down. Let's have it with the sort of off-white, sort of ivory color, flat, and then the dark brown for the ink, again, flat, and they're just so beautiful.
You're probably not going to get this over at your end because
No.
you're watching this going, okay, sure, they're just dice, but they have such a nice feel. I love them. When we got the very first set, the one that Mark was suggesting had too much, let's say, distressing on it. They're difficult to read because of it, because they were all patchy, a little bit like they've been old dice used 1,000 times, but you could barely read them. And in the end, it's a game. You're supposed to be there to have fun. Everything should be easily accessible. So we, as Mark says, clean that off, make it nice and clean, and they've still got that sort of bone feel, but they're just lovely. Yeah, really good dice.
And
I was
very
very pleased with
quickly,
those.
in the comments, this has come up before on our streams. D12 I like, D6 is fine, but there is a games design reason to go with 2D6 and 1D12. But is it not like more randomness to go more through 6 to 7 results with 2D6 instead of 1D12? It makes the game more fun to play it with 2D6 rather than 1D12.
Yeah. This was a core design decision that was taken pretty early. D12s are entirely random. A 1 is as likely as a 12, which means you were as equally likely to take out the top ends as the lower ends. And it was difficult to mess around with the odds in such a fashion that you would have let's say, easily predictable game. It meant it was very swingy sometimes. Some people just had no success multiple times in a row. And the odds, even though they may have been, I mean, you look at them and the basic odds, relatively stacked for them, still couldn't be there. Where with 2D6, it's much more controllable. It's much more accessible in terms of people's awareness of what the dice are as well. It's dice that people all understand, and it is adding together the dice. So if you rolled a 2 and a 6, that would obviously be an 8. And that means you've got a weighted result in the middle in your 6 to 8 results, obviously, a nice bell curve. And it means that you can much more easily organize how difficult it is to take out certain things, and you can make some things very difficult and some things very easy, which you can't do with a D12, particularly when you start adding on various equipment, because as you go along you pick up various artifacts by nabbing them from those hapless citizens we discussed earlier, and that can very quickly move you into an almost unassailable position when you're working on a D12. So there was a lot of mathematical reasons behind the scenes for the change, and also just some basic ones because people are more used to D6s. Not the most important part, though.
Plus, it gives us the option to roll the D6 now. You can roll half your dice. Well, I mean, you can always roll a D12 and halve it, but it's then you got to round down or round up. It's nice to say, roll 1D6 and remove that much suspicion. Yeah, it gives you a bit more flexibility.
I'm going to open the street card.
100%. It just opened up the mechanics in general because it allowed us to have D6 rules. And it just made everything much cleaner, smoother for play. And just in terms of the play testing, it was just better. And although there was a lot of discussion behind the scenes concerning numbers and exactly where they land, it landed, I think, in a perfect place. I can see Lindsay's keen to open it, so I'll shut up.
I can't wait. They smell nice too.
Yeah, new game smell.
This is the street deck.
Maybe reference in there too?
The reference.
Oh, lovely.
And the plot card. So let's have a look at the reference card first. So this just tells you your turn sequence: 1, hit the street; 2, visit the tavern; and 3, take stock. It's a very straightforward game.
Yeah, it was one of the best bits of it, really, is the actual core gameplay is super, super easy. It's got a very easy step-by-step process for you to play through. Nothing about it is hard. You can generally get playing almost instantly. And for all that, when you're playing it for the first time, it's worth knowing the rules, so at least you understand what's going on. You tend to find that after your first turn round, everybody just gets it because there's a few simple choices to make, and those simple choices make a difference to the dark deeds you've been dealt almost instantly. So you can immediately go, oh, I see how this works. It's a super fast, fun game.
And then we've got the street cards, so color coded, but also it's got the writing on there in case you cannot see color in the same way as other people. Artisans, the clerics. Wait, I'm going to find one. The fustigator. I love the fustigator. The mortificator. Then we've got the merchants, who are green.
Yeah, so you've got three groups of citizens: artisans, merchants, and clerics, all of whom carry different types of loot. The merchants tend to have carry items that give you cunning bonuses, which is for your robbing. The artisans tend to carry items that give you strength bonuses for your tackling of nemeses and the city watch. And then the clerics, a bit of both. Some stuff to wear, some stuff to hit people with.
So we'll come on to the loot in a second. First, we'll have a quick look at the city watch.
Ah, the City Watch. They're always there. They're patrolling down the street. One of the fun bits about the City Watch is they just get in the way of whenever you're trying to attack or nab stuff from somebody else. The Watch are always stomping around, so you have to creep past them, and if you don't creep past them, you have to run off, lick your wounds, and possibly come back later. You can obviously, if you wish, try to take out the Watch, but it gives you less favour with the patron than, for example, taking out a nemesis or something equivalent, and they don't give you any tasty loot, so perhaps not the best target in comparison to, say, someone who just happens to be making their way down the street carrying, I don't know, a nun's habit.
Yeah, unless you have a dark deed that specifically references tackling the authorities, of which there are plenty.
And when they suddenly become good. And if you ever get arrested by them... Oh yeah, if you ever get arrested by the watch, which can happen if you get too much of the most suspicious minion tokens, those suspicious minion tokens, the city's not exactly, let's say, good at throwing people in jail. A quick bribe and you're out immediately, you lose all your suspicion, but they also take all of the loot that you might have been carrying, which can be an absolute pain in the neck if you've got yourself a ton of really good loot. But also you might have a dark deed, which is be arrested, so it might not be as bad as it first looks to everybody else.
And they've all got quotations on them for a character. So the bounty hunter is, of course I know where the bodies are buried. Yours might be next. Billingham Bullshark.
Aye.
Ebenezer Flush is the merchant baron. So yeah, they've all got suitably characterful names.
Yeah, the nemeses are inevitably the characters that your patron once dealt with.
Oh, Mark, that actually made me laugh. And that's both Mark, the commenter, and Mark is the street card named Desire.
Probably the courtesan, Lucinda Lascivia.
Yeah, she should. Yeah, she should be.
The street card named Desire.
She should be Desiree, shouldn't she?
Oh, that's possibly something for an expansion. We need to sell a bajillion copies just so we can make a street card named Desire.
I'm gonna zoom just because I can.
Ooh.
On Mapcam or Patron
Sweetie.
cam.
Those are people who know me well know that those are my legs. And my boobs.
And your scared face?
Oh, that's definitely me.
Mm-hmm.
You on a night out?
They're not all me, but you know.
you say night out, that's just normal Mark. The second he's off camera.
Tuesday.
Too far.
I know it's too far. There we go. Right, next is the plot and loot deck.
No, you got the plot. Haven't you got the plot? The plot we're in. Oh, the plot is split,
No,
are they?
the plot are here.
Yeah,
Right.
plot cards are split over.
Okay.
You'll notice those red dark deeds straight away.
Yes.
Oh, the dark
Oh.
So here's the loot, which Mark was referring to. Again, that's the artisan loot. Things like Assassin's Blade, Caltrops, Master Sword, Pocket Arbalest, Alms for the Poor, Blessed
Alms for the
Bludgeoner
poor.
for the Cleric loot. Fun fact, in the playground, we used to ask each other for crisps by putting our hands out and saying, alms for the poor. I do not know why.
Because you're a Victorian ghost.
Yes.
Well
That
established.
Yes. Because you went to primary school or the workhouse, whichever it was, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
150 years ago.
Soporific incense, vow of poverty. Oh, let's have a look for the nun's habit, because that's one of my favorite.
Oh, you just passed it. There it is there.
Here's
Nun's
20 Marlborough a day. Here we go. Delayed
We got
reaction.
that. We got that. I did. That is me in my nun's habit. I've confessed this previously inside the Rookery, but I do own a nun's habit. And that was just me in my habit, just again hanging out on a quiet Friday.
And then the plot cards and the dark deeds. Let's have a look at the dark deeds. Or should we leave them till last? Look at the plot cards first. Oh no, we've still got merchant loot. I didn't look at merchant loot.
There's lots of so the merchant loot.
Cloak and dagger, grand pantaloons because you're a fancy merchant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty petticoat. Then we're into the plot card.
Yeah, the plot cards are the various plots that you can come up with as a malicious minion in the service of the patron. And they are a nice mixture of cunning tricks that you can come up with, which could be anything from backstabbing a partner. What else do we have? He did it. So blaming someone else. So what does that card do?
A guard or nemesis who is chasing you is now chasing another player of your choice. And if someone did that to you and you didn't enjoy it, what would you say? You'd say, sod off.
It weren't me. So yeah, most of the cards are played on your turn, and it's laid out in the rules exactly when you can play them, but a few of them can be played out of turn, like sod off. So whenever someone else plays one of their plot cards, you can, if you don't like it, just go sod off and stop them from getting it. And that can really screw with your crap sometimes, particularly if you've got a plan going on and then suddenly you don't anymore.
Yeah, the sod off is one of the most valuable cards in the game, simply because it's if you've got one in reserve, there's always the concern if another player is playing like the mine card, which allows you to steal an item from the most suspicious minion. You think, oh god, I hope they haven't got a sod off, because in which case I've wasted a really valuable card to attempt that. But you can actually sod off as well. So if you play mine and said, I want your +2 Master Sword, and they go, sod off. You go, no, you sod off.
There's 4 sod offs in the game.
Yeah, there is. But as is often the case with cards that are super useful, holding it and not using it means that you haven't got other plots running. You aren't doing other things. So it's always that counterbalance where you might have a particular, let's say, almost get out of jail free card, because other people don't necessarily want to attack you because they think you have a sod off. So they're like, I'll go to someone else because I think he's got a sod off. At the same point, you're not doing stuff while they are. So it all balances out very nicely in the end.
Stash is a handy card. You can sort of plan that. So if you've got it in your hand, you can do some activities that'll really boost your suspicion, get sent to jail, and keep a piece of plot that you really want.
Is that a piece of equipment?
Yeah.
No, it's a plot card. So stash, play after being arrested to keep one of your loot cards.
Yeah, one of your loot cards, exactly. That's what we were saying. And yeah, it's super, super handy, particularly if you have the dark deed where you're getting arrested. So you can get yourself arrested, slam your most important piece of equipment into the stash, and hope it doesn't get sod offed. So
your starting hand, you dealt 2 dark deed cards and 3 plot cards. So right from the off, you'll probably get a fairly good idea of your early game strategy, at least. With these 2 dark deeds, you've got the whole game to complete them, but it'll frame your approach to the game. And then you've got 3 plot cards, and you can draw a new plot card every turn. So you go, okay, now I know how I'm gonna attack the street, how I'm gonna handle the other players.
So here are the dark deeds, and as Mark says, you can see that depending on what you get in your hand to begin with will determine kind of the approach that you take. So a cunning plan, score if you play 3 plot cards during your turn. So you're going to want to be picking up new plot cards and keeping them and lining them up to be played. Fake a confession, score when you successfully attack the sheriff, the pontiff, or the witch sniffer. So that would be when they're in the street, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in the street or chasing you. You know, when a nemesis leaves the street, as the street advances every turn, as when Nemesis leaves, they begin chasing whoever the current player is. You will acquire nemeses inevitably as the game goes on. When a guard leaves the street, they chase the most suspicious minion, whoever owns that title. So that can change regularly.
Yeah,
Indeed.
there is nothing worse than a nemesis
Andy.
that you want for one of your dark deeds chasing another player, because they're over at the other side of the board and you can't attack people who are chasing other people unless you've got some sort of cunning ploy at hand to perhaps say he did it and change where that particular nemesis may be chasing, for example. So there's lots of little ways the various cards that are in play can be manipulated as you work your way through your plot cards.
And there we go. I don't want to share all the Dark Deeds cards so to keep some as a surprise. But there we go. That's me going through all the cards.
I think the other thing I'll say about the Dark Deeds is that through the course of play, you've got, during your turn, a bit where you can go visit the tavern and you can pick up more Dark Deeds as you go. But as Mark said earlier, if you have any of those Dark Deeds at the end of the game, you will be losing favour for everyone that you haven't completed. So having them there, not a good thing. So it's always a bit of a gamble. You want to take more because you get more points for completing them, but you don't want to take too many, because if you're left with them at the end of the game, you are so going to lose. And a couple of times I have been left with like 2 or 3 of those bad boys at the end of the game, and you're like, I completely messed this game up. And you often find that's because someone like Lindsay comes along and sods off or steals your best bit of equipment for taking out that person that you wanted to take out, and you're just left going, oh no, everything's going wrong, while they sit there giggling away in a corner, wearing a nun's habit, carrying 2 blessed bludgeons, swiping at anyone that gets too close, as you're just sitting there slowly crying in the corner going, the patron is not going to be very happy with me this week.
I love
This is me.
someone like Lindsay. Someone like Lindsay is if you don't do that too.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't. Part of being one of the minions of the patron is ensuring that you stay as creepy and as skullduggery-esque as possible. So yeah, there you go. That's what you get inside the game, and we could not be more excited. This copy came to us. Actually, it's the very first copies that were first finished and they got sent to us. And we have been waiting to open this for ages because the game has just this very moment arrived over in the warehouses for Modiphius. It's over in the US one just now. It's apparently shipping to the UK one right now, which means that they'll need to take it into their inventory, unpack everything, get everything organized over there. Once that's done, they will then start sending out all the shipments, sending everybody emails that's already done the pre-order. If you have yet to pre-order, go do so now because the game is about to ship. I hope that we have, if you're on YouTube, we'll have the link, I imagine, already sitting down inside the video description. And if I'm really lucky, it'll just appear on screen from somewhere like magic. I'm saying that because I see Andy's face is flashing with images in the background. So if you have yet to pre-order, you can do so right now over on Modiphius' website. And if you've yet to pre-order, seriously, what are you doing? That's just not... What? That's not... I'm lost for words. Look, we're celebrating at this end.
Just a couple of questions. Can you sod off a sod off that sodding off your sod off? You can keep on sodding off until you're all out of sods.
You can blow all 4 sod offs in a single interaction if you choose to do so.
Most I've seen is 3.
Will you record a gameplay video?
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. We're already planning different ways to do that.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do, Andy Leask and I have been chatting about recording in chunks, a setting up video and then a gameplay video, and then we'll put them up separately, or you can watch them all together, but breaking it down into easy chunks, because sometimes you don't want to watch a full gameplay video, you just want to watch a very quick, like, open up the box and here's how you get started.
Yeah.
And the rules themselves are super simple, so we'll probably do a quick, here's the rules, this is what you need to know to play, away you go, because there's not a great deal to pick up.
Yeah, a tutorial, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, look at us be grown-ups.
That's what they call those things.
Yeah.
Oh, Creative Posse. Can you integrate it with Wifrip? We've got a whole inside the Rookery and a blog about to come out on how you could integrate with not just Wifrip, but any high fantasy grim dark game. So it doesn't need to be grim dark, it can be any kind of vibe, but we think
No,
it
it's
particularly
not quite.
fits well with this.
Humorous.
Humorous.
Yeah, quite.
Darkly
And
humorous.
not only that, if you want to see an example of that, Fosse, you will almost certainly see us playing it well on the Lawhammer side, so that you can see the characters literally playing it in time, because Dark Deeds is going to be a game within our game, because that's just too much fun not to do.
You may not want to stay yet, but are you going to play it? Is everybody going to play it as Skaven?
Oh, we need to do that once, don't we? Oh, so they've already played Skaven once.
Ah.
And I think one of them survived. So that being the case, yeah, that sounds like it'd be enormous fun. Not only that, for those of you who don't know, Erin has been in the background making Skaven puppets for fun. So we could even have some Skaven puppets play.
So when we played Skaven, we were at human school. So I can see this as a perfect teaching aid that the Skaven used to teach how you would go about navigating an old world street / city.
Is it just 3 of them in an overcoat?
Well, one of them was spoilers, but they were not all Skaven pretending to be human, nor were they all human pretending to be Skaven pretending to be human.
Wow.
Yeah, there was loops and loops there, so that's super fun. So the answer to your question, Fosse, is you can integrate it with pretty much any game. One of the things that I actually really enjoy about role-playing is that it's not just about boshing that goblin or alternatively diving down a cave or whatever it might be in your individual game set. It's about portraying characters, and characters do everything. They don't just hit things. They also play games, have life, have love lives, have parents, family, all the rest. And there's lots of different ways that you can investigate that. Now, some players really like doing that, others don't, but most players love playing games. And an easy way for people to understand more about their character is to get them in a non-game environment and try to play that character. By non-game, I mean not the role-playing game. And play their character doing something else. So playing their character playing Dark Deeds can actually teach you more about your character and who they are and how they interact than actually playing the roleplay game properly sometimes. So I don't just recommend doing that. I heartily recommend doing it, particularly because it is so much fun and it breeds a certain level of, let's say, competition between the various players as they attempt to outwit each other, which can turn otherwise placid people potentially not so. So if you're playing a game that has, say, paladins who are very lawful good, when they're playing a game, that's different. And you can bring out different aspects of their character where they're like, yes, I would save this person, but I'm playing a game, so no. The rules say I have to do this, so it's time for me to get down on you all, and that can be super fun. So it's a nice way to find different aspects of characters that we all know and love and show them in a way that perhaps other people wouldn't expect.
And it's safe for intra-party conflict as well. So instead of actually escalating tensions to the point where you're attacking each other and actually fighting in the roleplay world, here you're competing in a safe space, which means you can have those rivalries and hostility without it costing you a fate point.
And if you're super clever, you can even use that as a storytelling tool. Where, for example, you've got two characters who have been working their way towards actual rivalry, and you can use a game where they are pitched against each other to diffuse or perhaps enhance, depending upon what sort of story you're going for, that rivalry. Perhaps bring it to the fore so that everybody gets to see it, and one of them can go off in a huff and then come back later, because it's part of an in-character session. So you can do all sorts of fun things with it, rather than just simply play through a game. So yeah, it can be a useful tool.
So that, I think we've gone through the unboxing. That's my very first unboxing video. Super exciting.
Beautifully managed. The hand modeling was exquisite.
Thank you.
Was.
Thanks to Rachel. Rachel's nail. Nobody pays me. I'm always doing plugs for people who've done things for me, and I'm never paid. I just like their work. So until the next time, we are Rookery Publications. This is Dark Deeds, the game of malicious minions. Please go and buy it, pre-order it immediately. It'll be shipped soon. And until the next time, all that remains for me to say is goodbye and caw-caw. Caw-caw. Bye.